we've been given is Denmark, and our group consists of Ross Bateman, Barry Fitzgerald, Shane Hickey, myself, Cian McGovern, and Scott Sheehan. So I'm briefly going to take you through just the cultural element of it. So just a few brief points about Denmark. The capital, as most people know, is Copenhagen. Their population is 5.5 million, and their government is constitutional monarchy. So the language is Danish. Their secondary language is English. 86% of their population actually speak English, and it's actually a mandatory subject in school. So we believe this will be very good for international business. Also, their official religion is Evangelical Lutheran. This is quite the same as Roman Catholic, so there's no mix-ups in what they should or should not eat. So again, this would help us bring dairy produce into their country. And they have 10 different political parties, and they share the same beliefs. Beliefs such as freedom of speech and freedom of beliefs, and also equal rights for women and men. As I touched on education already, they have 5 different universities, and all kids are obligated to 9 years in school. Higher education is free, and it's based on a grade point average. So this just gives the country a good education, and it's obviously an educated workforce also. The climate, it's cold and wet. The social structure, it's very strong. This is one point that we really focused on, and we thought this would really help for business going into their country. It's one of the first countries to introduce relief for the sick, unemployed, age, plus many more. So this just gives a strong social structure. 50% of the workforce are actually women, so it's equal rights. It's shared amongst the whole population. Men also do a lot of house duties, etc. So it's just a very educated and good workforce. The major industries are food processing, diesel engines, and electrical products. Food processing obviously is where we're aiming at, so this could be a small bit of a problem, but at the same time there is a market there for it. Major agricultural products, dairy products, which is what we're bringing into the country. Yes, as I touched on, this could be a small bit of a problem, but also it's obviously telling us that the population is educated about it, so therefore we don't have to educate people, so that might be a less cost for us. Pork and beef and barley are also big agricultural products. Just a quick point on consumer tastes. They tend to like tradition, they're more concerned about togetherness. They're not individuals, they're very modest people about their own work. They believe in rules. If people aren't going by the rules, they decide they'll speak up. Small families, children are rare to be independent early. And in business terms, they like to greet people with firm handshakes, eye contact, and they like to go with first names. Also, they deal with facts and figures, and they're very big about timekeeping. They like everyone to be on time and no delays. Ross Bateman is going to talk to you about the political environment.
Thanks, Cian. Well, Denmark is a constitutional monarchy. It is politics in Denmark function with the framework of a parliamentary representative democracy. It's a multi-party system with 4 or 5 strong parties, much like Ireland. And the one thing is no single party has absolute majority. The executive power, now because it's a monarchy, the monarch is the head of the state. But in reality, the executive powers actually are exercised by the Prime Minister. Margaret II, born 16th April 1940, is currently the Queen of Denmark, and she's been head of state since 14th of January 1972. Now in Denmark, as I was saying, there are 4 or 5 strong parties. Firstly, the Social Democrat Party, then the Liberal Party, then the Socialist People's Party, and then the Conservative People's Party. Now the first 3 I mentioned are all centre left wing, and they are actually in power at the moment. Now the Social Democrat Party actually didn't get the majority vote, but what's different about Denmark is the Prime Minister actually comes from that party. They believe in supporting public support of healthcare, education and infrastructure, and they're very like the Labour Party. The Liberal Party advocates major reforms in countries' education and tax systems, whilst they hold the same beliefs as the Social Democrat Party. They're much more extreme and they're similar to Sinn Féin. And the Socialist People's Party is inspired by socialism and green politics, so it's similar to the Green Party in Ireland. And lastly, the Conservative People's Party. This is a conservative centre-right party and it's very like Fine Gael in Ireland. And lastly, the government, the Prime Minister, as I was saying, is Helle Thorning-Schmidt, and she is the leader of the Social Democrats. She assumed office on the 3rd of October 2011, and she is in the government along with the Liberal Party and the Socialist People's Party. The above parties all tend to be centre-left. On to Barry, who will talk about the economic environment. Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. Hi guys, I just want to talk briefly about the economic environment of Denmark. The economic environment is defined as the predominantly of economic factors such as employment, production, income, wealth and interest rates that affect the perceptions of consumers and institutions. Denmark has a diverse mixed economy which relies heavily on human resources. Denmark has an economic freedom score of 76.1, which is the 9th freest worldwide, and it is ranked second out of 43 countries in Europe, just behind Switzerland. Next we're going to talk about employment. The current population of Denmark is 5.5 million. The overall employment rate is 75%. The employment rate is 6.7% of the labour force. This is expected to remain the same or increase by the year 2014. This figure, however, accounts for a large number of people on passive welfare benefits who are unlikely to join the workforce anytime soon. Next we're going to talk about interest rates. The current interest rates are in around 2.8% according to the Consumer Price Index. These are considered to be low from a historical point of view. The increases may indicate that Denmark may be heading for a period of gradually rising interest rates away from the levels of crisis levels reflecting the rolled out. However, the central bank smoothing has caused rates to decrease in recent times. Next we're going to talk about inflation. Inflation in Denmark is a measure of the broad increase or rise that the consumer may pay for a standard basket of goods. Between 1981 and 2013, the average has been 3.3%. However, it reached an all-time low of 0.4 in August 2013 and an all-time high of 13% in June in 1891. However, it was recorded at 0.7% last month. Productivity in Denmark is the real output produced by a unit of labour during a certain period of time. In other words, it measures the efficiency of the economy. From 1996 to 2013, the average has been 972 index points. Currently, it is measured at 103.53 index points mark. In Denmark, the gross domestic product is currently rising. The aim is to increase it by 0.7 at the back of policy measures boosting domestic demand. Next we're going to talk about the income and wealth of Denmark. Denmark has a nominal GDP of $333.238 million, which is the world's 32nd largest. It also has the world's highest minimum wage. Agricultural products in Denmark, such as dairy, account for 18.7% of the exports. Denmark has a balance of payments surplus. It also has no foreign debt, as more countries owe money to Denmark as Denmark owe to other countries. The high levels of taxation account for the large figure of gross domestic product. Finally, Denmark generates a lot of its income from charging ships and boats to cross the Baltic Sea to access the country. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the challenges of the Denmark economy. These are simple. It just involves boosting its production, increasing competition, enhancing the long-term labour supply, and looking into this financial stability of the housing markets. Thank you. Thanks for listening, and I'm going to pass on to Shane, who's going to talk about the legal environment of Denmark.
Thanks, Barry. The laws of Denmark originally began in 1241. They were brought in under the GST law that was introduced by Vladimir II of Denmark, who was one of the first kings. The Constitution is a fundamental governing law which is based upon the GST law, which was originally a civil code that the Danes would live by. Laws are developed by judiciary decisions and royal decrees from the early 1900s onwards. Here's just a brief outline of the courts of Denmark. The highest judiciary courts are in Denmark, but the subsidiaries such as Greenland, Faroe Islands, all have their own individual courts, but if this decision isn't brought from there, it's brought to the higher courts in Denmark. From 2007 they introduced different court systems, which as you can see in the chart there, outline the Supreme Court, the High Court, the County Court, the Maritime and Commercial Court, and the Special Court of Indictment and Revision, which is used for governmental decisions. They're based on a uniform structure, so basically it's the Supreme Court and everything else is individual. There's also 24 district courts. The Administration Act of 1916 is the only legal code that is governed, that Denmark is governed underneath. There's just the legislation. The Danish legislation is divided into 23 different categories, covering civil law to criminal law. Each section is governing bodily, regulating each of their respective aspects, and it's also under accordance with all EU law that's been brought in under different directives throughout the lifetime of the European Union. The regulatory efficiency then of Denmark is ranked as one of the world's most efficient across the globe. Starting business takes fewer producers than the world average, which is also a good indication of business standards that are held in Denmark. The food industry is regulated under the Danish Agricultural and Food Council. It often exceeds EU standards in terms of regulatory remits, and it's generally highly regarded for its strictness and its enforcing of its rules worldwide. The Danish Dairy Board, then is just a cooperative set up from dairy farmers in respect to dairy company entering the market. It was set up in the early 1900s between dairy farmers, and its aim is to create and ensure the best development potential for Danish dairy industries and Denmark and across the world. Thank you. Last Scott will talk about the attractiveness of the Danish market.
Hi guys, I'd just like to briefly speak to you about the attractiveness of the Danish market. Since 1982, Denmark has pursued a consistent and strong economy and holds one of the largest budget surplus of approximately 3.5% GDP. Denmark also proudly has an unemployment rate of 6.7% and has been below 5% in recent years. It also has one of the largest and continually growing infrastructures in the world, a competent workforce and a very good educational system. The labour market. The Danish labour market is one of the most flexible in Europe. This means that the owners of many companies across different markets in Denmark are able to assess how many employees are in a company at a given time, which is all in accordance with the market. Industrial relations are highly organised. This means that there's less need for disputes or strikes inside the workforce. A large organised postgraduate education system, highly skilled and well-educated labour force contributes substantially to the productivity of the Danish trade and industry. Denmark also has competitive labour cost levels. A lot of the employers in different companies have the low cost burden when it comes to labour, taxes, etc. The removal of the milk quota in 2014. Milk production expected to rise by 7.8% between 2015 and 20 as a result of the removal of this milk quota. Recently, at the Agricultural Association conference, Matthew Johnson, who is an expert analyst in the dairy product market, said already this year we've seen a huge variation in dairy prices between the top and bottom. All players need to be flexible and cost management will be key. Global markets were currently in the middle of supply-side shock with commodity prices at historic highs. Matthew Johnson also stated that it's expected for the larger companies in the EU and outside the EU for milk demand to increase by 2.3% and also for the production of milk to rise by 2.4% in the first half of 2014. Demand growth will be highest for infant milk, milk formula, nutritional and food drinks, which is kind of a gap in the market for the likes of yourselves who want to go into the Danish market and want to bring new products and show it to all the different types of people in Denmark, such as yogurt, cheese, etc. Matthew Johnson also stated that Ireland are at a big advantage, being one of few countries in Europe who are able to produce over 9 tonnes of milk additionally on the 13 tonnes of milk produced each year. This is just some of the attractions of the Danish market. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at scott.sheehan@mycit.ie.